Yeah, hey, this is Carsten, and on Friday, Brad Waller made a post at Revenues about some incident with a Hydra network and Vistaprint and involving spyware and research like was done by Ben Edelman, and an article was posted published in Media Post. But the comments, went kind of off topic, and it was basically two other things that took over in the discussion. And I would like to talk about one, and that one is about advertising. Hydra Network, the ones that are involved in some not so nice business practices that are not considered good in affiliate marketing, are also an advertiser at Revenues. And some readers suggested, why don't you take the advertising of those guys, right? You shouldn't promote or have advertisement on your site for somebody who is not ethical and stuff like that. Yeah, so, and then the discussion embarked what should you do? And is it right, to have, your ethics and, on your editorial judgment, does it have to apply to the advertisement as well or not? So obviously it's clear that advertisement should not influence editorial content. So Angel was saying that the separation between editorial and advertising is common business practice, and there are also the editor's code of preferred editorial practice. That's what he quoted from the American Society of Business Publication Editors. I will put a link up to that best practices that you can look it up for yourself. And that basically says is that you separate the two, and it's up to the advertiser to decide if he wants to pull an ad or not. What the publisher should do is give an advertiser notice if the content is not positive or negative about him, that the advertiser has a choice to pull the ads if he does not want his ads appear next to the negative content about him. The other person was saying it's hypocritical, and it's don't pull the code and whatever. And then Kelly Stevens was coming along and had actually a very well opinion. She basically said ethics back and forth, I think it's an entirely business decision. So if an advertiser advertises somewhere where the demographics is not the right one, for example people that don't like that advertiser, then the advertising money is not well spent. So it's basically waste advertising money, because the ad will not help the advertiser at all. And the publisher, the ad shouldn't matter, because readers cannot make up their own minds and will understand that advertisement has nothing to do with the editorial content and separate between the two. However, if the reputation, for example, of the publisher is maybe jeopardized, or the brand can be damaged, what would really loss of readership, or basically something that would hurt the business, then it's maybe more appropriate to disallow certain advertisers to advertise on the publication. But that's not true for every publication. So for example, Revenues is kind of it's a brand in itself that is pretty open, and also it does not want to prejudge any advertisers, and it does not reflect on a person, because Revenues is an entity. Different story, for example, with my site. Okay, I call it sponsorship instead of just advertising, because I consider sponsorships editorial content, and they don't let any advertiser put an ad on my site. And the only exception where I call it advertisement is Google AdSense, where I don't have control. Otherwise, I see it as editorial content, and I state that. So I basically vouch, for the advertiser, and wouldn't promote or advertise anything that is I consider bad. But it's also Cumbrowski.com. It's my last name. It's not internetmarketingresources.com, where I could kind of separate the things, and an advertisement would be looked at different. So there's an advertising connected to my name. So whatever good comes from the advertiser will reflect on me. Any bad thing about the advertiser will also reflect back on me. The same is true the other way. So the advertiser also has to look how does the publisher brand and reputation reflect on the advertiser's brand. So things very simple. If there's a conflict, if it's if the advertisement on a publication would hurt either the advertiser or the publisher, then it shouldn't be done. Plain simple. Because then the advertisement will not help to increase in business. It will do the opposite. You spend maybe money, but at the same time you're losing money or customers' reputation, brand value, whatever, what can all be measured, and you lose money at the end of the day. So you shouldn't do it. Pretty simple. When it comes to the publication like revenues, is to say like Hydra Networks said we don't want to pull the advertisement because we don't see that we did anything wrong. What was done rightfully was to give that party that was written negatively about the opportunity to comment on that and maybe also correct false statement or misconceptions, for example. If you take away like the option to do advertisement, then you take away an option for the advertiser to do some damage control and some PR work. For example, if he was doing something wrong and he fixed it and he wants to let the world know about that he changed the stuff, and come on back and look at yourself and check it out. He doesn't have the vehicle to do so anymore because he doesn't have advertising spots on on the publication where it's exactly the target audience he wants to reach with that message. So it's a two-edged sword, and as I said, like for revenues, I wouldn't do anything like pulling an advertiser's ad if the advertiser decides I want to continue to advertise on revenues. When it comes to other sites, for example, my own site, where my own name is connected with that, it's a different story. And I would say you have to do the same thing. For example, if you have a personal blog, you probably want to look who you have as advertiser. If it's a more generic name, and even if you are just the only blogger, but it's not kind of your name attached really to it, then you maybe be more open and say, what, if the advertisers find that I write negatively about him and maybe some constructive criticism, some appreciate that actually. If it's like like pointing out where issues are and making suggestions how to improve them, and can it be a good thing, and the advertisers be very happy. So keep that in mind. Just pulling off ads because of some negative press and some issues isn't the right way doing. Alright, okay. The other issue that was also touched in the comments I will talk about a bit later.
I'll be back.